Cool. So I am very much a movement guy. I love mechanics. Man, just I love that I can serve people with movement. One of my goals for tonight is to almost elevate our perception of movement to the same level as food. So a lot of people, they get hungry and then they find a way to eat, but we don't tend to think the same way with our body's ability to move and its kind of its essential nutrient status. And so one of my goals today is just to kind of show you how important this really is. And I'm going to highlight some problems that make it very apparent to us. And then I'm going to also give us some solutions along the way as well too. But I want to start by opening your brain to this with a testimony, with a story. Sorry, oh, there we go. So this is a long testimony, and don't get me wrong, I'm not going to ask you to read it all, but I'm just going to go to the picture so you can see it. This is Miss Karina. So this is a testimony from a while ago. I was still back in the bow tie days. Some of you may remember that. But this is the first adjustment that brought a tear to my eye. So this is imagine this is your little girl. You're at a park, you're sitting at the picnic table, and you watch her in slow motion fall from the top of a playground set to the heap, kind of falling about 5 feet to the ground. So pretty dramatic fall. As a mom, you're freaking out. You run over there. She's grabbing her ankle. She's saying, "Mom, my ankle hurts. It's really bad." She's crying, tears in her eyes. They go to the hospital. They find out her foot is broken. So it's pretty sad because she loves gymnastics. She also had some learning issues in some other areas, but she just loved her ability to move. So they're cruising along with the broken ankle. But things start to get a little weird. Her ability to read, which she already struggled with, gets worse. Her ability to focus gets worse. And then she's in gymnastics and she has to play on the jungle gym. And all of a sudden she can't really balance anymore. She gets to the point where she can no longer put her feet together with her eyes open and maintain balance. And then the last straw was she lost her ability to read. So I'm just looking at her right now and just imagine that being your little girl and she loses her ability to read and how that affects you. So as a mom, you start looking for answers. One of her friends sends her off to Brain Balance, which is a really powerful center. It helps kids with just various learning disabilities to just get better through lots of different tools. They start seeing some change over there, but the clinic director then sends them to the chiropractor. And she says, "What the heck is the chiropractor going to do for my daughter and what's going on here?" She says, "Just go check them out." So she does. I do my assessment. I find some stuff going on with her neck, of course. And I adjust her occiput, which is her C1, C2, which is the most neurologically dense joints in the body. I introduce some movement in that area of her spine. And it didn't move a little bit, it moved a lot of it. And it was loud, and it kind of freaked Miss Karina out. It freaked Mom out too. But she got off the table, and she could track an object from left to right. Because prior to that, anytime she read from left to right on the page, she would just get lost. If she was following an object along, she would get to midline, and then she would lose it. And then she could put her feet together and not fall over. Just one adjustment right here. And so that is introducing motion to our bodies and how bad motion created all these problems and how restored motion started to create a lot of solutions. And so I hope that opened your eyes a little bit to the importance of motion, particularly motion in your spine. And we're going to learn a lot more about that tonight. So the key concepts we're going to dive in. Why is quality movement essential healthcare? And is sitting near smoking? And where do I start? Start with design. So then we're going to learn about knee pain and the first joint rule. I'm going to minimize this because this blocks some of the screen. There we go. And then ergonomics, the setup. We have a lot of people working from home, and I've seen some crazy home setups. And so we're going to learn some basics about that and how to help people. Then lastly, we're going to see the importance of the posture, spine, and brain function. Cool. So starting, why is quality movement essential? Well, Apparently, the Department of Homeland Security says it is. Because chiropractors down here, woo, we're on that essential list. Yeah, there's a lot of news right now about essential healthcare, so I just thought that'd be fun to share. But I like to kind of point out sometimes kind of an important thing by pointing out a problem. And so this phrase got thrown out there: is sitting the new smoking? And so this got tossed around the media a little bit and is no longer a question, it is now a statement. Sitting is the new smoking. That was from the Annuals of Internal Medicine back into 2015. And so at the start, smoking was like, oh, it's not really so bad for your health. Now we kind of know the truth. And then now we're starting to see that with the same thing with sitting as well too. This is what some other media outlets said about it. The Scientific American, sitting is responsible for 170,000 cases of cancer every year. British Medical Journal, huge journal. Every hour of sitting in front of the TV reduces your life expectancy by 22 minutes. And Men's Health, if you sit the majority of the day, you are now 54% more likely to die of a heart attack. And of course, diabetes, obesity, and fatty liver disease. Sitting is far more dangerous than we thought. Text-neck, we've also probably heard this as well too. Almost 80% of the population, which like adults, pretty much has their cell phone with them all the time. It's not far from their hands. It's only away from their hands about 2 hours a day. That's pretty crazy. And I show this because what it's doing to younger age groups. I'm seeing spines worse than I've ever seen them before in younger and younger ages. And texting and technology is a main culprit, because we can start to see as that head goes down, it just creates a lot more force in this lower neck. And so we got to be really careful with that. So that we're up against a massive problem. We all need to move more. But there's so much information out there. Where do I start? My brain always goes with start with design. If we use a tool in its natural design, it's going to work for us well. If we use a screwdriver to try to bang in a nail, it's going to screw up the screwdriver. It's not going to do a very good job. So our bodies have an inherent design. And if we honor that design, it's going to work for us, not against us. And so this is a picture of how we develop over here. We start with fertilization, then we come along into the baby here. Dr. Ashley's getting really close to this stage. Baby Campbell's about the size of a pineapple, apparently. But we all develop around this long tubular structure, and that tubular structure, this eventually becomes your spine, your spinal cord, and your brain. And so we're going to be talking about that a little bit later as well too. I always like to throw this slide up here just because we need a reminder. How does our body heal? If we get a cut, is it the Band-Aid that heals us? If we break a bone, is it the cast that heals us? No, it's our own body, right? And so we just have to give it the resources it needs and get the crap out of its way so it can do its job and so we can heal better. And one of those things it needs is movement, and we're going to learn about that tonight. This is a fun one about the spine and posture. The spine and posture affect and moderates every physiologic function from breathing to hormone function. This is a huge journal from the American Journal of Pain Management. So how we operate in space, how we move our bodies in space affects everything. This is the kind of the key point here. Motion is life. We have to move well. So we kind of determined why quality movement is essential. Now let's go into some actual fun stuff that we can get better at. So knee pain, ergonomics, and then the posture, spine, and brain. So this one, I'm going to move around a little bit. I'm going to show you a live demo, but I want to start with just the premise. The joint you move first is the joint that takes the load. That is the first joint rule. So I'm going to switch you back to my screen. So there we go. Oh. Can everyone see me now? Ashley, can you see me?
Yeah, I can see.
All right. Thanks, John. Cool.
No problem.
I'm just, sometimes I see everybody in the room and sometimes I only see me. So I'm going to step back a little bit and show you the first joint rule. Okay, so I'm going to use knee pain as an example, but you can apply this premise to essentially any joint in the body. And so I'm going to move my camera down a little bit. And so this is a greatly exaggerated chair, okay? I'm not asking you to do step-ups, although that would be helpful. But if you try this, you will immediately feel what I'm talking about. And so the joint I bend first. So I am lifting my body. I'm about to plant my foot on the step. And so I'm going to then initiate the movement from my knee and from my hip, and I'll show you the difference. So if I initiate from my knee, I'm going to start bending my knee first. And so if I bend my knee first, this angle closes, my knee is going to shift forward. This is the problem with people going up the stairs, is they think it's about their knees, not about their hips. Our big, powerful joints are our hips and our shoulders. And so we want to minimize this as much as we can. So I was practicing this earlier and my knee kind of hurts from it. So I can only do this once. But say I shift into that knee, I bend my knee first, I have a sharp knee angle, and then I go to press off. There is all the force is coming through my patellar tendon, my kneecap here, right here, and it hurts quite a bit. You can give it a shot if you want. I don't recommend it. But how do we fix that? How do I not bend my knee to go up the stairs? Well, I'm not asking you to not bend your knee at all, but I just want you to bend your hip first. And so how you do that is you shift your hip back. You essentially hinge at the hips. And so if you hinge at the hips first, you're going to bring the hip back. Your knee's also going to come back. So I've now loaded my hip. I can still translate my weight forward and then press, and then I come up. You'll notice that when I do it that way, in space, my knee doesn't move. Versus if I move my knee forward, my knee is moving in space quite a bit. But if I load the hip, I just go up and my hip extends. And that means all the power is back here. And so press, up, hinge, up. And so that's the secret to getting rid of knee pain going up the stairs. And the first joint rule. Now that is a bit complicated, and I can show you more in the office if you want, or I can go over some stuff with you at the end. But we do have some other material, but just think about that and all your movements. Essentially for all your lower body movements, I want you to hip hinge. So I want you to send the butt back, and that's going to load your hip first and not your knee. For your upper body movements, I want you to focus on the shoulder, not the wrist or the elbow. Okay? And then the big thing to protect your back is to don't round the back, bend the hip. Okay? Because say you go to tie your shoe and you round your back, you've now loaded your back. But if you bend your hip, your spine stays neutral. And so that is the first joint rule and how it applies to your big joints. If you have any questions, just let me know about that at the end or in your next office visit. But let's dive into, I think it's ergonomics now. I got to share my screen again. Cool. Does everybody see the screen again? Yes? Cool. All right. Live demo. All right. So now ergonomics, starting with that low back. I'm seeing a lot of this right now. A lot of people are sitting in couches, working on laptops. Everyone's rounded and pooched out the back. And this screws up your upper lumbars. It screws up your lower rib cage. It screws up your digestion. A really quick, easy way to fix that is to put a pillow behind your back or actually get the posture restored. This is a really cheap chair, but you can kind of see just what putting something behind the back does. It forces the lower back forward and it forces you more upright. And so for all our ergonomics, we want the spine to be in a neutral vertical position, not rounded, okay? Actually, a fun thing about ergonomics isn't really about sitting properly. And that's what it's been reduced to. But if you actually look up the definition of ergonomics, it's about efficiency. And so it's been reduced to efficiency to avoid, or it's reduced to just sitting well to avoid injury. Therefore, you can keep working. But I want to add to this, motion is so important for your brain that when you sit in this rounded posture for a long period of time, you actually decrease your brain's ability to function and circulate nutrients. And so if you sit more like the gentleman on the right, then you're going to be more upright over time and your brain's going to have more circulation. You're actually going to be more efficient, which is actually the true definition of the word. So now the next thing is workstation height. I want the head gaze neutral. So you see this guy is nice and vertical, and he's got 4 stacks of paper to raise the monitor height. And that is the biggie, is we want that head gaze neutral. We want this to be, you see the glass line right there? We want that to be a straight line forward, okay? If anything, this monitor could go up another 2 stacks of paper. What I see a lot of with success is actually putting a laptop on top of your table, but then putting your laundry basket on top of the table and your laptop on top of the laundry basket. That's going to lift it way up. And I am going to recommend you get a keyboard so that way you can keep the screen high but your wrist low, because I want the forearm to be flat and you want it to, because it's going to feel better in your shoulder. The next best thing is standing, of course. This one, you can kind of see that monitor is actually at the top of his gaze, which I like. And then we have that long neutral spine, which is also good. And then we see that flat forearm. That's perfect, okay? And so this would be your ideal standing setup. We want to get as close to this as we can. We don't want the keyboard way up here, and we don't want to be looking down all the time. Because looking down gives us that text neck, and it's going to wreck our posture and our spine. We'll learn more about that a little bit later as well too. But even though this is an ideal setup, we still need to move. Our body is designed to move. It is not designed to stand still. We fatigue very quickly. So we need to move at least every hour and for at least 2 minutes. I'm going to recommend you do a full stand. And so what that means is you get fully standing up and you reach that head really tall. And then you even spread your arms out wide. Woo! Just doing this feels good. I love doing this on mountaintops. It's opening the chest, standing tall, brings the shoulders back. Psychologically, it does really amazing things, gives you a sense of power, gives you a sense of efficiency. If you just do that, everyone just do that really quick. Does that not feel better? Just give me a thumbs up if that feels better. That is, yeah, it feels good. Oh, there we go. Even got families doing it. There we go. Good stuff. Neurologically, this does phenomenal things. And so you felt that, right? You felt that. That is motion changing your brain. And so that is really, really cool. So now I got to get this out of the way again. Now we're going to talk about the spine and nervous system. So we were talking about motion on a macro scale, and I want to talk about motion on a micro scale, the micro scale of motion in your spine. So spinal alignment, the brain requires motion. So motion is a nutrient for your body. It's like food. The brain needs motion, food. If it doesn't have proper alignment and movement, it can't tell the body what to do properly. Okay? And so a back problem becomes a brain problem, which becomes an overall health problem. And this is greatly exemplified by Superman, or Christopher Reeves. So some of our wiser age folks might remember that Superman. He's a really cool dude. So he was on top of the world. He was the first Superman. And then he fell off a horse and he was no longer Superman. Well, he was still a pretty cool guy. He just wasn't the same Superman we knew before. And so this is looking at a spinal cord. This is why your spine is so important. So he got an injury, the tip of his pinky. That's how big the injury was to his spinal cord. And it changed him from Superman to wheelchair bound. It was said that he aged about 10 years in about 1 year after the injury. And so this is what an injury and bad motion can do to your nervous system. So if this can be done with one kind of big injury, does it also make sense that a small injury that can add up over time could also do pretty significant things. Yes. And that's what I do as a chiropractor. So small misalignments in your spine are called subluxations. These create interference between the brain and the body, and they interfere with our body's ability to communicate and operate properly. Okay. And so these are various warning signs of misalignments in your spine. It can be all kinds of symptoms. Really depends on what nerves and what areas of your brain are affected. Everything from back pain and anxiety to focus, like what we saw with Karina. She couldn't read anymore. She had all kinds of different problems. But when we returned her upper alignment, things got a whole lot better. Trouble sleeping. Talked to a couple of patients today, and I love it when patients say that they're sleeping better. It means the body's starting to heal. And so these are the warning signs. These are the red flags. But you may not have any red flags either, but we still want to make sure we're as optimally healthy, because the World Health Organization defines health as the complete state of physical, mental, and social well-being, not merely the absence of disease or infirmity or symptoms. And so even though you may not have any of these issues, we still want to make sure we're moving well and that we're moving completely, because it's the complete state of physical, mental, and social well-being. If our health in any way is limiting one of these areas of life, we are no longer healthy. It's not just about feeling good. We have to be able to do all of these to our fullest potential. And that's kind of our responsibility, so that we can just be a source of betterment for the world. And so this is, now we're highlighting the problem with some of the things from the research. So persons with a hyperkyphotic posture had a 44% increased rate of mortality. That's all rates of mortality. Just the only hyperkyphotic just means you got a hunchback. All right. So you're just hunched forward. And so we gotta be standing tall. This is a 300-person study. They just measured all aspects of health status based off of posture, and their recommended solution was to surgically alter spines so that they're more upright. Crazy, right? We can do that with adjustments. A lot of you guys have seen that. And then, of course, I've said this study a lot in the practice. This last one here just looks at, it broke down elderly into 4 groups of people, and it compared their ability to remain independent. And when we have abnormal posture, we're more likely to become dependent upon others. So just meaning like we can't live on our own anymore. And the only factor that they looked at was posture. So if we saw that caved over, hunched over posture, that person was at risk of losing their independence. So a group exercise, everybody spot. So I'm going to bring up everybody again. Everybody spot an empty spot on the wall. All right, so you're just going to go to a door jamb or a wall. No, so you actually got to stand up. You got to go over there. So you can leave your phone. But I am just going to do this in an open room. And so I want everybody to go up to a wall. My wall will be imaginary. Okay. But you're going to bring your heels to the wall, your butt to the wall, and your shoulders and your head. Okay. A lot of people can't really do this. So I call this the posture check. And so what we need to do is we need to get flat up against the wall, heels up against the wall tight, butt up against the wall. We want to keep that low back flat. We don't want a big curve in our back. We want to flatten that back. And then we want to bring the shoulders back and the head. Okay? This should be a normal, upright, comfortable posture. And so that is the posture self-check. So was that comfortable? I see the Huss family, they got up and did that. I'm going to unmute you. Oh, I don't know if you have a microphone anymore. Oh, there you go. Was that comfortable to do? Could you do that?
I could do it. It wasn't comfortable.
Yeah, because when we get abnormal posture, that gets hard. Okay. And so one of the things that we always talk about is if we get into bad alignment, it's hard to get into a good posture. And with the amount of sitting our society does, we spend so much time like this that it becomes our normal. And so we have to do everything we can. I mean, everything we can to fight against that. Because if we get hunched over, first off, that doesn't look good. Nobody wants that. But it affects our overall health. One of the studies I didn't share, I had a slide developed to it, but it actually looked at people that sat for a long period of time. It didn't matter how much they exercised. It said, one of the quotes was, you cannot replace an hour of sitting with an hour of exercise. You need to reduce your amount of sitting, because sitting, it just does detrimental things to the body. If we sit too long, it doesn't matter how much exercise we do. Like, say we work out really hard for an hour and a half every day, but we still sit 9 hours, it's still going to have a lot of health problems. So I'm going to jump back to my slideshow here.
Dr. Darby,
Yep.
is the standing foot supposed to be with the heel against the wall as well?
Standing. So yeah, so I just wanted your whole body flat up against the wall, because then you'll be vertical.
Okay, so standing heel, then the bent leg heel, then the bottom, then the shoulders, and then the head and neck.
Yeah, so you should be like a perfectly vertical line up against the wall, and that should be pretty normal. But for a lot of people, especially after you've been sitting for a period of time, that's very difficult. And a lot of times I'll do this pre and post adjustment so people can feel the difference of alignment on their spine and how it influences their posture. Cool. So that was my group exercise. Hope you had that fun. Now let's go into, so this is what the research says about getting that spinal posture corrected and what it does for overall health. So we talked about the problem, what it does, but this is now when we're able to correct it. And so this was a case study, and they're actually launching a bigger study about this now. But this, I just pulled this up right on my screen today. It's one of my favorite studies. So increased telomere lengths means they're now going to live longer with more longevity. And this was a chiropractic case. This is them doing a chiropractic technique and improving specifically her neck health. And so she found after 36 visits, they had increased telomere length, which now means she's going to have a longer, more fuller genetic life. Cool. So I got 10 minutes left. We got lots of time, so we're good there. But then she also had improvement in she had to go to the bathroom a lot at night, and it was becoming quite a bit of problems. She also had a lot of other stress issues with her organs, and that got better as well too. And of course, her neck and back pain went away. Woohoo! But all right, so that's how do we test this now? Well, if you're a patient in our office, you've probably seen all this before. Range of motion, palpation, that's me feeling with my hands. And then these are the scans we do, the SMG and the thermal. And then, of course, we do x-rays. So I love this x-ray picture right here because this is a younger individual. There's not a lot of arthritis in this spine. But you can see that she has what's called a reverse curve. Her neck is going this way. It should come back. And so this person is going to have a lot of neck issues if this isn't corrected. And so that's where posture evaluation, that's where that posture self-check comes in. And so this is that full quote from the American Journal of Pain Management. Posture affects everything. Okay, and despite considerable evidence, posture affects physiology and function, the significant influence it is not being addressed. And so as a society, we need to look at how we're moving and the quality of our movement. And so every human deserves a chiropractor. And so I apologize, this left it as a little graphic, but it's very powerful and it needs to be shared because not enough people know about the effects of birth on babies. And so this is a baby getting pulled out of mama. This is a C-section, and you can literally see the traction being placed on the baby's neck. There's nothing else being touched. They're pulling that baby out by its head with a nice little twist in there too. You can imagine that can probably do some things to its neck. So they did a study in Scotland. They looked at 154 10-year-olds, and 10% of them already had disc degeneration in their low back. They didn't have any pain, but the problems were already starting. And then this was a bigger study they did. They looked at 20-year-olds and then 80-year-olds, and also disc degeneration, but then also protrusions and just other spinal degeneration. But none of these people had pain. And so 37% of 20-year-olds had disc degeneration, 30% of 20-year-olds had a bulge, 30% had a protrusion, which is a much bigger injury with no symptoms whatsoever. So you can have a lot of problem with no pain. So that's why we need to be getting checked. This is one of my favorite testimonies from Dr. Ash's patients. It just goes to show you it's more than just about motion. So she could barely lift her arm above her head. But not only that, she loves that she can walk out feeling relaxed and pain-free. And then she can also feel her brain operating. So she phrased it as, I can actually feel greater oxygen flow to my brain. We saw her the other day and she's just like, yeah, I'm coming here, I'm wearing my mask, but I love it here. And that's what we love our patients. We love keeping you guys healthy and moving strong. And so that's the recap for tonight. So is sitting the new smoking? Yes, it is. We need to be moving more. What do we need to do? Kind of how do we need to reduce pain, improve our joints? Is we need to honor the design of our bodies. We need to A, move like it's a nutrient, and B, just follow the first joint rule. And so I'll have a couple minutes for more questions on that if you need. Ergonomics questions. So lumbar, get that pillow back there, or you can get the lumbar support, or if you just have a nice chair, that's even better. Get those monitors nice and high, and we got to move. We can't just sit static for hours. And then, of course, if you're a patient in our office, which I think most of you guys are, the posture, spine, and brain is vital. It's just vital. So that's what I have for you today.